Okay, picture this. You're a paleontologist out in Montana. You find a fossil, think it's one thing.
Uh-huh.
But then you realize it's actually something, well, way more significant, like a tiny early relative of Triceratops.
Yeah, and one that kind of rewrites the book, or at least a chapter, on North American dinosaurs. That's Aquilops americanus for you.
Exactly. And what's really wild is how small it is, like a skull you could hold in your hand.
Right, but it gives us this incredible window into, the really big picture stuff, dinosaur history, ancient migrations. It's fascinating.
Totally. So today, that's our mission. We're doing a deep dive into this early plant eater, a Ceratopsian. That's the horned dinosaur family, but from the early Cretaceous here in North America.
And our main source is that key 2014 paper, Fark and his colleagues, the ones who described it.
Yep, that's the core.
Yeah.
We've also got some background on the actual, discovery moment and even some museum resources like 3D scans of the skull. Pretty cool.
So what we want to do is figure out, okay, why is Aquilops such a big deal? What makes it unique? Where does it slot into the whole dinosaur family tree? And crucially, what does finding it here tell us about dinosaurs moving around the planet millions of years ago?
Okay, let's set the scene. We're going back to 1997, southern Montana. Paleontologist Scott Manson is out there digging.
Right, doing the hard yards. And he finds this fossil.
But it wasn't immediately obvious what it was it?
No, not at all. The initial thought, because of where it was found and its general size, was maybe Zephyrosaurus, another small herbivore known from around there.
Okay.
But as they prepped it, cleaned it up back in the lab, it became pretty clear this was different. It had its own unique features, definitely something new.
So that takes us to 2014, when it gets its official name. Andrew Fark and the team published the paper, Aquilops americanus.
And the name itself is pretty neat, actually.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, Aquilops, it's Latin. Aquila means eagle, and ops means face.
Eagle face.
Well,
What?
it's because of the beak, the bone at the very front of its snout. It curves downwards pretty sharply, giving it a sort of, eagle-like profile, I suppose.
Huh. Okay. And americanus is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, found in North America. Simple as that.
So this eagle-faced dinosaur, we need to get the scale right. We're definitely not talking Triceratops size here.
Oh, absolutely not. Tiny in comparison. The main fossil, the holotype skull, it's only about 84 millimeters long, like just over 3 inches.
Wow. Okay. That's small.
Yeah, and they think this particular one wasn't even fully grown, maybe 60% of adult size.
So how big would a full-grown one have been?
They estimate maybe 60 centimeters long in total, roughly cat-sized.
A cat-sized Triceratops ancestor?
Sort of, and weighing maybe 1.5 kilograms.
Yeah.
So yeah, a small critter.
But packed with unique features, right? Even at that size.
Definitely. That's what made it stand out. The paper details quite a few. That beak bone, the rostral, it's not just curved down. It has this arched ridge, like a keel on top, and a little bump at the front.
A specialized beak, then, for eating plants.
Seems likely, yeah. Very distinctive for such an early, small ceratopsian.
And there were other skull details, too. Something about the jaw.
Yeah, the upper jaw rim, just before the teeth start. If you look at it from the side, it's kind of scooped out, concave along its whole length. Another unique identifier for Aquilops.
Okay. And you mentioned openings in the skull. The antorbital fenestra.
Right, that opening in front of the eye socket. In Aquilops, it's got a very specific shape. It's much longer than it is tall, about twice as long, actually.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of tapers to a point at the back, right underneath the eye socket. These might seem like tiny details, but they're crucial for figuring out relationships between species.
So this main fossil, the holotype, it's just the skull.
It's the skull, yeah, and the lower jaws that go with it. From that probably subadult animal we mentioned.
What's missing?
Mostly the very back of the skull and the palate, the roof of the mouth, but still a remarkable find.
And they know exactly where it came from, geologically speaking.
Oh, yes, very precisely. It was found embedded in the Cloverleaf Formation.
And that tells us its age.
It does. That formation dates to the middle-late Albian stage of the early Cretaceous. So we're talking roughly 109 to 104 million years ago. Placing it in time is absolutely key.
Right. Okay, so we've got the description, the age. Now, the big question. Where does this little guy fit in the grand scheme of dinosaur evolution?
Okay, so zooming out. It's a dinosaur, obviously, an ornithocetian, one of the bird-hipped ones.
Mm-hmm.
Then within that, it's a ceratopsian, part of the horned dinosaur group. More specifically, it's classed as a neoceratopsian.
Neoceratopsian.
meaning new horned dinosaurs. Basically, the group that includes everything more advanced than the really primitive parrot-beaked psittacosaurids. Think Triceratops, Protoceratops, and their closer relatives.
And Aquilops is one of these.
Yes, but a very, very early one, and that's what makes it so
How
significant.
early are we talking? Like bottom of the branch?
Pretty much. The analysis they did cladistics, where they compare all the features, placed Aquilops way down near the base of the Ceratopsian tree.
So it's like one of the first steps towards the later, bigger ceratopsians.
Exactly. It's considered the first definite, really basal Ceratopsian found in North America. It sits below things like Leptoceratops. The only one considered more primitive in that group is Ceratops, which is from Asia.
Asia. We'll come back to that. But first, you mentioned the main fossil was maybe not fully grown. Did that potentially skew the results? Could it look primitive just because it was young?
That's a really good question, and something paleontologists always have to consider. Juvenile traits can sometimes mimic ancestral ones.
Right.
The researchers knew this, so they actually tried to account for it in their analysis. They looked at features likely to change with age.
Did it change things?
Not significantly, no. Even when they tried to adjust for potential juvenile features, Aquilops still came out as a very basal Ceratopsian. It cemented its position as a really early member of this group.
Okay, so a confirmed early basal Ceratopsian found in North America. Now let's talk about that Asia connection you mentioned. Where did these Ceratopsians come from originally?
Well, the consensus view, based on the fossil record, is that Ceratopsians, this whole group Aquilops belongs to, actually originated in Asia.
Ah, okay. So finding one of the earliest ones here in North America is unexpected.
It's hugely significant. It tells a story. If the group started in Asia, how did Aquilops, one of the earliest known members, end up in Montana 100-odd million years ago?
It must have migrated, traveled somehow.
Precisely. The existence of Aquilops is really strong evidence for a migration event. Animals moving from Asia into North America sometime during the late part of the early Cretaceous.
Wow.
Its basal position suggests its ancestors were likely among the first Ceratopsians to make that trek.
And was it just a one-off trip?
The researchers think probably not. They suggest this initial migration, represented by Aquilops or its immediate ancestors, was likely followed by maybe 2 more migration waves later on in the early late Cretaceous.
Bringing over other ceratopsian groups that then diversified here.
That seems to be the implication, yes, leading to the familiar North American horned dinosaurs we know from later periods.
So this little cat-sized dinosaur is actually evidence for, like, a massive intercontinental animal movements.
Isn't it amazing? It connects the dots. It shows how interconnected these ancient ecosystems were, even across vast distances. It's not just about one species. It's about the dynamics of life across the planet.
Yeah, that really changes the perspective. It's not just a cute little fossil.
Definitely not. It's a crucial data point in a much larger story.
And I remember you mentioning the paper had an illustration, kind of bringing its world to life.
Yes, a paleo illustration. It shows Aquilops in its Cloverleaf Formation environment, and it includes a potential threat.
Oh, like what?
A Gobiconodon, which was actually a type of mammal but quite large for the Mesozoic and potentially a predator.
A mammal predator chasing dinosaurs.
No, maybe the young ones. The illustration shows adult Aquilops seemingly protecting a juvenile from the Gobiconodon.
Suggesting parental care, maybe?
It hints at it, yeah. Of course, it's an artistic interpretation based on the fossils we have and general ecological principles, but it paints a picture of the potential dangers and maybe social interactions in its life.
And if people want to see the actual fossil, or close to it, you mentioned 3D scans.
That's right. The holotype skull has been scanned, and those 3D models are available online through museum resources.
So you can actually rotate it, zoom in, see all those little details we've been talking about.
Exactly. It's a fantastic tool for researchers, students, anyone interested, really. Brings the fossil to life in a totally different way.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive on Aquilops americanus. Key points. We're talking about a small, early ceratopsian plant eater from North America's early Cretaceous.
Yep. Cat-sized, eagle-faced, living about 104, 109 million years ago.
And its unique skull features marked it out as something new, specifically a very basal or early Ceratopsian, the first clear one found here.
And that's crucial because Ceratopsians are thought to have started in Asia.
Right. So its presence here is strong evidence for dinosaur migration from Asia to North America back then.
Yeah, likely the first of several migration waves that eventually populated North America with various horned dinosaurs.
So the big aha moment here is that this tiny fossil, initially mistaken for something else, actually provides really important clues about huge-scale dinosaur movements, and the origins of a major group.
Absolutely. It underscores how even seemingly small finds can radically shift our understanding of Earth's deep past and the history of life. You just have to know how to read the clues.
And hopefully, for you listening, this deep dive gave you that focused insight into Aquilops and why it matters, without getting bogged down, just the key stuff.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other small, maybe overlooked discoveries are sitting in museum drawers or still out there in the rocks?
Yeah, what tiny fossil fragment might hold the next big clue about ancient life, just waiting for someone to take a closer look?
It's a good reminder of why paleontology, that process of discovery and interpretation, is still such an exciting field. There's always more to uncover.